thank you very much for the question. You might be wondering what's going on. Well, recently I did a video in which I cleaned a section of my lorica segmentata, which is my Roman armour, and I was kindly asked the question what I used. So I thought I could talk about how I go about cleaning my Roman armour and what that entails exactly. Now I'm actually wearing the section here that I cleaned. It breaks down into 4 sections. I've cleaned 2 of the 4 sections, the upper 2, which means I'm halfway there. And I'll start with what I wear, and essentially I wear gloves, but I don't wear disposable gloves because I think disposable gloves don't give you a great grip. They also really make hands sweaty and they are disposable, so why not just go down the hardware store and get some basic gloves. They're not expensive. By the way, nothing I talk about on this video is expensive. I don't have the money. So anyway, once I've got these, I then move to the hard part, the elbow grease section. This is where the hard work starts. So get yourself a coffee, get yourself something on the radio or a couple of podcasts going on, because you might be doing this for a while. But your first job is primarily focusing on the steel, because you can see there's brass here. I'm not dealing with the brass yet. In fact, I'm not touching the brass. I'm just dealing with the steel. And what I'm trying to do is remove that layer of debris, which is predominantly rust through fingerprints and whatnot. Part of having armor, that's what you're gonna experience. And what I do to do that is I use abrasive pads. Now I've seen that you can use sandpaper as well. I find that really quite difficult to use. These seem far easy to actually use. Abrasive pads are basically what they say, what they sound like. They've got grit in there, and you can get them at different levels of coarseness. You can get really coarse, then you get medium. This is a medium, and then you can get fine. I generally use medium because I don't find that I need any coarser grit to take the stuff off. What you're trying to do is actually scratch the metal in a way to try and get rid of that top layer of debris. So I use that. I can use finer versions if need be, but if you've got some of these, they work as well. You might recognize these from cleaning the bathroom and clean the kitchen, which I also use these for, but obviously not the same one. And they work really well getting in between and around the brass, because again, you don't want to be touching the brass because you'll scuff it up using this kind of stuff. So once I've done that, I then move to the polishing. When it comes to the polishing, I'm looking for 2 things. First of all, it's going to bring up the brass really well. Secondly, I'm also going to use it on the steel, and that's going to hopefully give a bit of a shine, but ultimately it's there to try and seal and make sure that I keep the moisture out as much as I can. It's a losing battle. Rust is going to come back, but I'm just trying to mitigate that as much as I can. That's really what you're doing when you're maintaining it. Now, I have used lanolin, I'll get that word right, which is wool fat, and that's kind of a waxy substance, and you can use that, and that looks quite nice. And there is some evidence that apparently that's what Rome may have used, because obviously they didn't have metal polish, and it's great. It keeps a seal across the armor. And there's one other really important piece of the armor that you need to be maintaining. You can see a bit of it here: leather. If you can find something that nourishes leather, you can get lots of different things like beeswaxy things. Use that as well, because you want to be keeping this well nourished. You don't want it drying out. It's part of the armor. It's important to keep it maintained as best you can. So those are the basic stages. That's what I do. It's not really expensive. It's just time consuming, but ultimately rewarding, because when you've done it, it does look good and you feel a bit better wearing it. Though, you know, this has aged better than me. But anyway, if you've got any questions, stick them in the comments. And if you've got any comments, stick them in the comments. And hopefully you've enjoyed this, so you might want to click follow. Thanks again, and thanks for asking. I hope this helped.